what else is incredible is all these people on the lines. 888-957-9570. We've been talking Warriors. Steph Curry, he wants to keep the big three together. What matters more, keeping the big three together or getting him a ring? I want to talk to our 2023 Roaster of the Year, Uncle Gene in Oakland. Gene, my guy, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great, Sam, FP. Yeah, so listen, first of all, I think they're one and the same, but I'll get to that in a minute. FP, I think you're right. I think this may very well be Steve Kerr's best year. I mean, I want to see how it plays out the rest of the 20-something games before I make a judgment. Up to now, I felt like the last year they won the championship was his best. By contrast, last year was his worst, and I think he's more or less admitted to it. Started off, of course, with the punch and the not holding Green accountable, and the whole sort of locker room going south after that, and the team with it. This year, I think he's learned from his mistakes. I think he's handling people better. He's more patient with the young players, and you can see the difference that's made. He's also been patient with people like Wiggins when everybody wanted to ship him out. Some weeks ago, he said, listen, the guy just needs to get back in his rhythm. He's been having problems physically and emotionally, and in time, you'll see the old Wiggs back, and I think we're starting to see that. He also stood up for our favorite guy, Draymond Green, and, sure enough, he came back, and the whole team has turned around as a result. So, no, he's done a great job. Mr. Lacob, if you're listening, sign this guy up for Christ's sake. He deserves it. We need him. Now, as far as keeping the big three together, I've said many times, and I continue to say, once one of these big three is not around or not available or just not playing at a high level, that's officially the end of the dynasty as far as I'm concerned. They're more than just three great future Hall of Fame players. They're a brotherhood, all right? They love each other. They know each other. They've been together for, I believe, about 11 years now. And they feed off of each other, okay? They play for each other. So, when Curry is saying, no, I want to keep the big three together, it's not just a sentimental thing. I think it really, gets to the heart of why they've been champions. So, no, I want to see them stay together, and I really believe it's still their best chance of winning a championship.
Good stuff, Gene. Really appreciate that call there. A lot of good stuff there with what Gene was saying. That's just what he usually does. Gene always brings the heat.
I was a little in shock.
That's why he was our Roaster of the Year last year. So again, if you missed it, this is what Steph Curry, he was on with Malika Andrews of ESPN, and he was asked about keeping the big three together, and this is what he had to say, and this is kind of what we're talking about right now.
100%. And I think that's always been a motivator for us, and I think the way that we talk about it is we want to not only end our career as a Warrior, not only continue to compete at a very high level, but you want to end it the right way. I think we've been through a lot this year, and the three of us, especially with Draymond's absence for a while, with Klay taking on a new role, the new cast of characters that we have that are right alongside us in this journey. I think it's extremely possible to accomplish both. We just have to, protect the identity of who we are as best we can. And I think we're moving in that right direction.
One part he says in there is trying to end this the right way. I almost kind of feel like when it comes to either just we've been doing this either or thing, and I hate staying on the fence and kind of playing this both sides argument, but I feel like I kind of am on this one. I would obviously love to see Steph get another title. But if it really does end where it's the big three together, I don't even think Warrior fans really be that upset with it. I mean, maybe down the line, I don't know, maybe, but right now, the idea of keeping the three of them together and just enjoying these good times that we have with them, and hopefully Kerr comes back next year. I would expect him to. I think it's weird that he doesn't have a deal now. I think he should have a deal now. The only thing that gives me pause is we played this game with Bob Myers last year, where it was just like, oh, come on, of course he's going to be back, right? Why wouldn't he be back? But then as the year went, along more and more and you didn't get that deal, you started getting the whole, well, maybe this is just a good time for him to get out. And then he does end up getting out. But I'm in a position where it's just like, is there any, would Warrior fans really be up? What's the best way to phrase this? I don't know. Do you think would there be any Warrior fans who would be upset if they did just keep the big three together and they don't win another title? Like, are the good memories enough to satisfy Warrior fans if that is indeed the direction that the Warriors decide to go with?
Well, I like what Steph said about you can do both. I would think it'd be hard pressed to find a Warriors fan right now that says break up the big three. Like if you're out there and you're a Dubs fan, you're just like, yeah, let's get rid of Klay right now. Let's get rid of Draymond.
Well,
there was a little bit of get rid of Draymond when he got suspended. And I felt that doing sports talk.
Oh, I was one of those people, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was too, and I think I was wrong on that.
Probably.
I was. Availability is huge. I need to know that my guy's going to be there for me. I need to know that he's going to be available for me to compete with. And if I didn't know if he's going to be there, I thought that was, that's a big thing. But now he's there, and you can see the difference he makes. He's still animated. He's still playing with passion. But is there anybody out there that thinks they should break them up?
I'd be curious to hear if there's anyone. Yeah,
I don't think.
Give me the reason to break. I think the reason, if you do break them up, it's because there is someone who you can pair with Steph Curry, who. Let me say this: if Draymond Green and Klay Thompson are not back next year for whatever reason, and whoever's brought in to replace them helps Steph win another championship, no one's going to be crying and complaining that Steph won a championship with two other superstars rather than the big three. Will it hit the same as maybe the first four titles did? Maybe not, because it's going to be a completely different cast of characters. But like Laker fans, when they went through Kobe winning 3 titles in the early 2000s, 3 in a row, and then Kobe won 2 more at the end of the 2000s with a pretty much entirely different team around him. You don't see anybody being like, those titles were better than the other ones. It was just, we got one of the truly great basketball players in NBA history, the championships that he deserved. There was no like, let's try and keep, all those guys, Shaq and them together. It was, let's build around Kobe and win with Kobe. And no one complains about that. And I like to think that if it was a situation where forget Klay, forget Draymond, let's just go find options out there and put them around Steph and win with them, Warrior fans would absolutely embrace that and roll with it, because winning cures everything. I do want to go out to the lines and talk to Melinda in Oakland. Melinda, where are you on keeping the big three together?
I agree with Steph Curry. I think they should stay together. And Klay has his good days. Draymond has his good days. He might have a little temper here and there, but that's okay. But Steph is still on fire. If they could get another guy like Kevin Durant, that'd be great. But Kevin Durant, he had too much ego, so he had to have his own star. So if we can get another person like him, that'd be great. But we're doing a lot better, so I think we should keep the big three together, and I agree with Steph Curry.
Yeah, I mean, obviously...
It's a great voice.
Yeah.
Can you call back?
Is she still on the line? Lindy's still there?
That was a great voice.
No, she's gone. All right.
She should have her own show.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious if this was it. No more championships. I know Nick Friedel, he was on the show with us yesterday. In the past, he said, Warrior fans, I hope you enjoyed that title the other year, because that might be the last one. That was the bonus title that no one expected you to get. I mean, if this really was it for this run, would Warrior fans be upset? Is there a feeling like, oh man, we really left a lot on the table there? Like, I grew up a long-time Warrior fan. Like, I've been going to Warrior games since I was like 5 years old. I remember, I'd always ask my dad, this was back when Thunder, the mascot, was doing things for the Warriors. I don't know. Did you ever see Thunder, the mascot?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
I love Thunder. And I remember asking him one day, I was like 5 or 6 years old, Dad, why doesn't Thunder suit up for this team? Like, he's routinely every night the best player on the floor in between, breaks and stuff like that. That's how bad it was with the Warriors back then, where I'm asking why the mascot can't help. Again, I was 6 years old. I didn't know better. I sat through some really drab days as a Warrior fan. I remember when I got to Miami, I tell people I'm a Warrior fan. Like, oh, where are they? Like, no one even knew the Warriors played, because it was Golden State Warriors. There wasn't a city. No one knew that they were in the Bay Area. But then by the time I graduated, everybody knew who the Warriors were because that was when they were winning their first championship. So for me as a longtime Warrior fan, when they just won that first one, that was enough for me. The 3 on top of that is gravy. If this really is it, like if they're really, like as Gene said, he kind of said this is the end of the dynasty. If there were no more championships and it was just, let's just see, the big 3 play out these next 3-4 years, I'd honestly be okay with that. Because I feel very satisfied as a Warrior fan in terms of what this core has gotten me. I don't know if you feel a similar way.
Their roles could change. Like Steph's always going to be Steph. I don't care. I feel like Steph's going to be like Tom Brady. He's going to play till he's 40. Like I don't think his role will ever change. But maybe you keep him and you add pieces and you watch Kuminga and Podziemski kind of take over in sort of slow fashion, and you add some really good pieces to the puzzle. I don't know who at this point, but dude, it's not like these guys can't play anymore. They can still play.
They just need to be in different roles.
At a high level. I mean, Klay just showed us what kind of I think, man he is versus a player he is by accepting that role, coming off the bench, throwing in 35. Yeah. Like that as a guy that's got Hall of Fame resume to say, okay, I'll be a 6th man. And after 700 plus games of starting, after 12 years, comes off the bench for the first time and pours in 35 and accepts the role and embraces the role. And you could tell this guy's authentic. He's not going to just give you like lip service with quotes in the media. Mm-hmm. I mean, he tells us too much sometimes. And for him to say that, like, this is okay and I'm embracing this role and I talked to Steve about it and then put up the numbers to back it up. I don't know if it's going to be a full-time thing. I don't think it will be, by the way. Maybe it will. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But like these guys still can play. I feel like we're like throwing. Well, I don't want to use that analogy. I think we're kind of alluding to that they can't play anymore. What Steph said, they can keep them together and still win. Can they win a championship? Oh boy, I don't know if I'm going to go out that far on a limb, but they're trending in the right direction to do some damage in the playoffs. They're trending in the right direction to be maybe a 6 or a 7. If it's all said and done, they keep playing. I go to energy, effort, body language, and defense. To me, defense is an attitude as an NBA player. Defense is something that you just either you're going to do because you want to or you're not going to do. Yeah, are there more talented defenders because of foot speed and rotation and knowledge of how it works? Yeah. But like playing defense to me is effort. And they're starting to give, ever since Coach Decky passed away, unfortunately, this team has played at a different energy level. And it's been a consistent level. And I don't know if they're doing it for him or they're doing it because it was just plain embarrassing the way they were going about it early in the season. But they're playing defense now. Like they're rebounding. The turnovers, I think, are always going to be there. The turnovers are hard to watch sometimes, but whatever with that.
Well, that's always been a feature of the Warriors' style of play. Yeah. Going back to the very beginning of this run, it was always like the way they move the ball, the amount of ball movement that's in it, there's going to be turnovers, especially with just how fast they play. The problem with the turnovers is that when in the past they had enough talent to overcome those turnovers, when you got, Steph, Klay, Dre, and KD on the floor together, 10 turnovers ain't going to hurt you because you got guys who can, turn a 20-point deficit into a 5-point lead in the blink of an eye. The problem comes is when the talent isn't enough to overcome those turnovers. But, to your point, kind of what they've been doing the last few weeks in terms of how much damage they can do in the playoffs. Nick Friedel, he joined us yesterday, and he likes if the Warriors do run into a young team like the Thunder or the Timberwolves, he kind of likes what the Warriors can do against them in a series. Here's what we had to say about that.
If you're playing against a Thunder or a Timberwolves team that just hasn't been there and certainly hasn't been there together, hell yeah, the Warriors with the championship pedigree that they've got, with Draymond locked in for now, playing the way that he is, absolutely they have a chance.
So I'm kind of curious to you, FPS, as someone who's been in, professional clubhouses with professional athletes, how much does just the know-how, that veteran know-how, help on those big stages? The fact that, if the Warriors, they do go into the playoffs, they would be one of the most, if not the most, playoff-tested team in the entire field. I mean, how much does that simple know-how, how far can that really carry you, though?
I mean, you still have to execute, right? I mean, you still have to go out there and get it done. But I feel like, if you've been there, done that you live for those moments when Draymond says, I don't start playing until March or whatever. Like, that's not saying he's not trying before that. Just we played so many games that matter so much that sometimes it's hard to get motivated for a regular season game when you've won 4 championships. And that's where you separate the true professional from the guy that's just out there. And I think if you've been in championship scenarios, which I never was as a player, but I've saw a lot of guys that were, they're able to control their pulse easier. If you've been there, done that. Patrick Mahomes, Derek Jeter comes to mind. He was just playing baseball games in October where we were all just, the playoffs. We're playing the playoffs. Let's go. And he's just going out there, going through the routine. The routine doesn't change for guys that have been there, done that, because there's exterior distractions. There's tickets. There's all kinds of media that you have to do. There's interviews. There's this, there's that. The stage is elevated. There's something to be said for being the only game on and your peers watching you, which is where I felt the most pressure in the playoffs, is where all of my peers are watching me today. Like every single baseball player in the major leagues is turning on this game and watching me. When you're playing however 15 games a night or whatever it is, you see highlights of your bros on their other teams. But now all of your peers are watching you. So there's just there's a heightened sense of anxiety and nerves. But the more you do anything, talking about you running a radio show today, the more you get reps in anything, the more you play on the biggest stage, the more you play in front of the bright lights, the more you are the only game on TV, no matter what sport, it just becomes another game. And usually the team that can make it become another game the quickest ends up winning that game. So when you have the Warriors with all this playoff experience, now they're going up against a Sacramento in a Game 7 that's never been in a Game 7, all these kids for the Kings last year, and Steph goes for 50 and he wins the game. So it's just another game to him. You realize the consequences if you lose. You realize the ramifications, but it's more like, I've been there, I've done that. It's a reality check. Any big moment in life that you have, the way to get through it, the healthiest way to get through it is to step back and have a reality check. What is the worst thing that could happen right here? What's the worst thing that could happen if you had a bad radio show today? You're going to be on the other side of the glass. Your family's still going to love you. You have your health. You're 30 years old or almost 30 years old. You have a bright future in front of you. So whenever something becomes bigger than the moment, you take a step back outside your body and you look at it from a reality check. What if I strike out in this at-bat with the bases loaded in the 9th inning? I'm still going to go back to the clubhouse. I still have my job. Yeah. Life is going to go on. When you look at it through that lens and you've been there and done that so many times and you have the resume that these guys have, they're all playing with house money. Do they want their legacy? Do they want to win 5? Do they want to win 6? They want to be up there, Magic and Jordan and all these guys. Of course. Of course Steph wants to be in that. Of course Klay wants to be in that conversation, and Draymond and Steve Kerr, who's got 100 rings, 9 if I'm not mistaken, 5 as a player, 4 as a coach. But it's a reality check.
Yeah.
And these younger teams and these younger players, they don't have that reference. They don't have that in their resume. If they lose, they feel like their life's going to be over. And it just comes with experience. It comes from been there, done that.
And that's the thing with the Warriors. I mean, they kind of got those setbacks out of the way early. Again, there was the loss against the Spurs and the 2013 run. Falling short against the Clippers, they were able to get those scars. And yeah, I kind of do agree with what Nick was saying there yesterday in that, a lot of these younger teams, the Thunder, the Timberwolves, these, the Kings, they still have that, if they haven't built up that ability to take that step back, see the hay that's already in the barn, see the house money they already have. That is a major advantage the Warriors do have when we talk about, there is a way they can do it. I do feel that veteran savvy is enough to get the Warriors through at least one playoff series. I thought it got them through that Kings series last year, just in terms of they knew how to handle a Game 7 a lot more than the Kings did. And so I think that if you're talking about reasons to keep the big three together, just that alone, the ability, the comfort they have together on the biggest stage, I think is an absolutely great reason to do that.